I have pleasure in opening the council meeting of the 12th of December 2023 at 6 p.m. and I welcome all those who are in attendance. The City of Vincent would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay our respects to the elders past and present. Now, I've got two apologies for tonight. Councillor Wallace is an apology, and I also have an apology from Councillor Wolf. Councillor Wolf requested that I advise why she's absent. Her two-year-old twins both of them had general surgery today, and I'm happy to report that they're now in recovery and the surgery went well. So I think we wish Nicole Wolf and her kids all the best. I note there are no councillors recorded as having leave of absence. Okay, so now we're going to move to public question time. Are there any members of the public present who wish to speak? Thank you. If you haven't been to a briefing at the City of Vincent, so if you haven't been to a council meeting before, we ask that when you come forward, please state your name and the suburb in which you reside and the agenda item number of the item you're speaking on. And we do time to 3 minutes. If you don't want to appear on the live stream, could you please let us know now? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. Leslie Fleury, SASAV Mount Hawthorn. I will outline my property situation to the new Mayor, Alison Xamon, and new councillors. I have a City of Vincent stormwater pipe, a major one, running through my property, which leads to Lake Munga. It's a large 900mm diameter stormwater pipe, which City of Vincent say they have no record of, however, are aware of it. The stormwater pipe runs down Menzies Park, through East Street to Sass Ave and through my neighbour's house directly in front of me. Due to the city's lack of record keeping, it does not show the pipe on my property. However, magically out of nowhere, the stormwater pipe starts again at the house directly behind me. In the council meeting agenda 13th of December 22, item 10 was attached a 6-page document on stormwater drainage, stating that the risk management implications are high, with a large amount of drainage infrastructure running through private property which is not accessible. The city to spend $425,000 to capture data, drainage data and balance to minor drainage capital upgrades. 1 year on, what has the city done? Question, where is this data? Question, why has this information not been passed on to councillors and ratepayers? Question, I'm on the distribution for consultation with Mount Hawthorn and North Perth community groups. Why have I not been informed or consulted over the last 12 months? Why is the City of Vincent not being transparent and addressing the lack of stormwater mapping, ageing and deterioration, end-of-life pipes in their monthly council meetings and, importantly, annual reports? Interesting to note the annual report of 22-23 that the City of Vincent is compliant with their record-keeping plan. First time in 3 years. How many years has the City of Vincent not been compliant over the years? I asked you under the functions of the CEO, section 5.41, the Local Government Act, being 1.1, 1.9 record keeping, 1.12 professional communications, to ensure records and documents are accurate and maintained, properly kept for the purposes of this Act. In my situation, I believe the City of Vincent has failed in their record keeping over the last number of decades. I refer you to the Asset Management Policy 2.2.12. The city acts as custodians of the city's infrastructure assets. The council is required to represent the community as the infrastructure asset owner. The council to be a steward of infrastructure assets. Under responsibility, council members to act as stewards for infrastructure assets, to promote and raise awareness of asset management in the community. Under your responsibility as council members, what have you implemented and addressed for this major asset of the stormwater pipe? 2 questions to finish. I'd like to know the definition of a council member and who this includes. I'm asking the council members to step up and represent me in this adverse situation affecting my property. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, is there anyone else who would like to address the meeting? Okay, thank you. A summary of your remarks will be included in the minutes, and responses will be in the agenda of the next council meeting. Okay, there being no further questions, I close public question time at 6:05. Okay, so public statements, some have been received, and I'm going to hand over to the Governance Manager.
Confirming we have received public statements from Dudley Meyer of Highgate, and these will be responded to in the next meeting agenda and directly to Mr. Meyer in the next 10 days.
Okay, so the responses to previous public questions are listed in the agenda. Now, are there any applications for leave of absence? Noting that, councillors, you don't have to apply for a leave of absence during the official break period. Are there any applications for leave of absence? Okay, moving on. So we have not received any petitions, and we have not received any requests for deputations. So now we'll get to the confirmation of the minutes. And the proposal is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 21st of November be confirmed. Do I have a mover for that? So moved Councillor Warner and seconded Councillor Hallett. So all those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to make some comments because I get the opportunity to do that. And I'd like to talk about 2 particular things. One of the things that was brought to my attention when I started as mayor was some issues that are occurring in terms of the creation of local laws that I wish to express some concerns about. So members, so councillors would be aware that I'm a former state member of parliament, and as such, I was a member of the Legislative Council and was on a number of parliamentary committees, but also was involved with ensuring that delegated legislation received appropriate scrutiny. Now, the committee which deals with delegated legislation, which includes local laws, is the Joint Standing Committee on Delegated Legislation. DEL-LEG is what we call it. And that is a committee of both of the houses. And the responsibility of that particular committee is to assess regulations that come through under statute to make sure that it's not ultra vires, that it's not beyond power. And also one of the things it does is it also looks at local laws to make sure that local laws are properly constructed and that they are consistent with whatever the parent acts are, and also to ensure that they are not inconsistent. Now, I'm also aware as a parliamentary committee that the work is really important. I'm a huge fan of the level of scrutiny that is applied by the House of Review, particularly the Legislative Council. I'm also aware that sometimes, perhaps occasionally, there might be a level of scrutiny that's applied that is perhaps more robust than one would potentially think necessarily merits. Now, I'm someone who did frequently put up motions of disallowance, particularly for regulations, if I felt that they were stepping over and above what was intended by the Parent Act. But I'll confess that I never did move any disallowances in relation to local laws, because my focus had been particularly on the construction of state legislation. I am concerned that there seems to be a little bit of a culture which has emerged in recent times, whereby feedback is sought from a number of local councils early on in the process of establishing local laws from the Legislative Council, and particularly the committee chambers, but that advice is not being given. That puts local councils in a very difficult position, because local councils need to be able to pay lawyers to be able to construct legislation, and it's obviously a lot of staff time to try to put together legislation. And if you don't get that early feedback, then it means that ratepayers can then end up spending a lot of money only to find at the end that there's a particular interpretation that's being applied by the Dell Ledge Committee that could have been avoided if only there had been that early feedback. I don't believe this is the orderly way that we should go about construction of legislation, and I'm disappointed about that, because I do believe the committee's system within the Legislative Assembly and Council is a really important oversight, and I want to make sure that it's functioning as well as possible. And I also want to make sure that ratepayers' money is not being wasted. So one of the things I'm going to be doing is writing to both the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly and to the President of the Legislative Council, and also to WALGA, asking if this issue can be looked at and see if there is a better way that there can be earlier input from the Dell Ledge, or particularly the staff, who are very, very competent. I've got great respect for the committee staff that work within the parliamentary system, to see if we can ensure that councils across the board can have that early input much earlier, so that ratepayers are not left to have to review entire local laws after it's been through an entire process. If it should turn out that the advice from the committee is contrary to the advice which has been received by the lawyers who've been assisting. So I wanted to raise that, because I know it may sound like a technical issue, but it's not really, because it does actually impact on our rates, and because sound construction of law is something that all of us should take very seriously, both the administration but also us as the elected representatives. So that was one thing that I wanted to raise. The other thing I wanted to raise was, of course, we're heading into the festive season, or we're in the festive season. Certainly in my house, we're already in the festive season. And I did want to actually note that Vincent is celebrating Christmas. And also there's been a number of things which I've been enjoying and which are going on at the moment. So there are Christmas markets that are occurring at Kiella, but also the ongoing Mount Hawthorn Hawkers Market at Axford Park. I loved attending the Arty Farty Christmas party out at Leederville on Sunday. That was lovely. And thanks very much to Leederville Connect for their work on that. And then after that, I went straight to Barrathwaite Park, where I joined Mount Hawthorn Community Church, who along with Mount Hawthorn Baptist Church did carols by candlelight, and that was really beautiful, and I loved that. We also have more carols coming up. Too many carols are never enough, at Hyde Park this Sunday, and the Salvation Army is going to be doing the carols out there. So hopefully people might come along at 6:30 and do that. We also have this coming Saturday, the Beaufort Street Christmas Twilight Markets, which will be in Beaufort Street from 5 until 8:30. So I'm going to be popping in there as well. I think that will be absolutely lovely. And I've thoroughly enjoyed visiting many of our primary schools over the last few weeks, and thank you also to those councillors who've also done this, to acknowledge the Spirit of Christmas Banner Awards. That's been absolutely lovely. Being able to judge the artworks and being able to have them printed up in our main town squares. That'll be wonderful. I also did want to make a comment about the Christmas decorations across our town centres. Trees have been lit up in Leederville and also along William Street. And I note that a decision was made this year. It was actually before I became mayor, but I agree with the decision to actually spread out those Christmas decorations across all of our town centres. And as someone who lives in the South Ward, can I say how much I appreciate that? Because most of the City of Vincent residents actually do live in the South Ward, and it's nice to know that some of them are now being distributed right across the City of Vincent, because South Ward residents also pay rates and would like to be able to see the celebration of Christmas. So that's wonderful. I have received, a little bit of correspondence of disappointment about the tree at Mount Hawthorn in Braithwaite Park not being lit up. It was something I only became aware of this Friday. I understand that there's some people that are very disappointed about that. My understanding is that there was every intention to have that lit up, but that when it came time to actually turn the lights on, that it turns out that even though they'd been left up deliberately to ensure that it was going to be ongoing, they had broken, and it was not sufficient time to be able to organise to be able to get them lit up. So there is of course an opportunity for community to give feedback, and we'll obviously have an opportunity as a new council or a half new council to be able to look at what is going to happen for Christmas for next year. But what I certainly hope is that whatever we do for Christmas, I hope it's something that is going to be equitable right across Vincent, so that and obviously we need to make sure whatever we do is going to be value for money for our ratepayers. I think they expect nothing else. And I think that as we talk about Christmas and what's important and Christmas trees and all these sorts of things, I want to remember that Christmas is a time where we can be with loved ones. And for me personally, I think that it's an important time to remember the call for peace. I know many around the world who are torn from loved ones due to war. And closer to home, we've got people in our own community who are without a home, who can't afford to be able to enjoy Christmas. And I don't want us to forget about those sorts of things. We here in the City of Vincent have so many blessings, and I don't want us to ever lose sight of the fact of just how lucky we are. And certainly if we look at what is happening around the world and even in our own backyard, we must remember that there are so many people who are less fortunate, and I think that it's important that in the spirit of Christmas that we extend love and grace to all in the community. And on that note, I also want to wish the Jewish community a happy Hanukkah, because it isn't just about Christian celebration of Christmas. I do celebrate Christmas. It's recognising that within our community there are people of other faiths or no faiths that also celebrate this time. So I just wanted to make those few comments, and thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to the CEO with declarations of interest.
Through you, Mayor Xamon, the two declarations of interest I've received are as per the briefing agenda last week, both from Councillor Lafontaine. The first, an impartiality interest in relation to item 12.2, which is the appointment of council members and community representatives to advisory groups. Councillor Lafontaine noted that the extent of the interest is that she has social contact with two of the applicants. Councillor Lafontaine also declared an impartiality interest in relation to item 12.3, which is the information bulletin. The extent of the interest is that she owns and resides at a property on Forest Street, North Perth, which is referred to in the info bulletin in relation to a black spot traffic project. That's the extent of the declarations I've received tonight.
Okay, are there any other further declarations of interest in relation to any items that people wish to put forward? Okay, Moving on, we don't have any items which have been the subject of matters from the members of the public. Now, we do have items which require an absolute majority decision, which are, so that is items 10.4, 11.6 and 12.1. And in terms of items which council members have declared a financial or proximity interest, there's none, is there? There are none. So I'm just going to go around now to all of the councillors to see which items in particular you would like to pull out of the agenda for specific discussion. Councillor Warner. Okay. Councillor LaFontaine.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 9.1, 9.3, 10.1, 10.2. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Castle.
Item 9.5 and 12.3. And I just had a question, is 12.4 required to be by absolute majority as well? Audit Committee?
We'll double check that one. Sorry. Councillor Greer. Councillor Alexander. Councillor Hallett.
12.2.
Okay, we'll just confer and figure out which items can be passed on block.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, I'll now read out the item numbers which are being proposed to be moved en bloc, which includes items 9.2, item 10.3, item 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, and 11.5.
Okay, so the proposal is that those items be dealt with en bloc. Do I have a mover for that? Moved Councillor Warner, seconded Councillor Castle. All those in favour? Okay, that's passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to actually go straight to 12.4 because we have the Office of the Auditor General on the line. So we'll move to that item now. Okay, we're being joined by Director Mark Ambrose. Okay, so now I'm going to pass over to Director Mark Ambrose to speak to the findings of the Office of the Auditor General in relation to our council. Okay, can you hear me, Director Ambrose? You're on mute.
Mark, can you hear us okay? You're still on mute and we're going to invite you to present to the council.
Director Ambrose, could you hold up your hand if you can hear anything that I'm saying? Okie dokie. All right, we're having some technical difficulties. We'll see if we can get it sorted.
Mark, can you hear us? Oh, okay, that's great. Mark, can you unmute? Hi, Mark, can you hear us okay?
Oh, man.
Hello, Director Ambrose. It's Alison Swan, the Mayor here. Would you like to begin your presentation to the council, please? Director Ambrose, if you can hear me, could you please put your hand up?
I don't think you can.
Sorry.
Okay, well, while we wait for this to get sorted, I'm going to move to item 9.1. So item 9.1 is number 500 Fitzgerald Street, North Perth, proposed change of use from restaurant cafe to restaurant cafe and small bar. Okay, do we have a mover for this? A mover for this? Moved, Councillor LaFontaine. Do we have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Warner. Okay, so would anyone like to speak to this matter? Councillor LaFontaine.
Hi there.
Thank you. Did you want to?
Yes, please proceed, Councillor
Okay.
LaFontaine.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just wanted to say that I am supportive of the recommendation to approve this change of use. I think many of the concerns are focused more on the parking than the change of use. And with the condition number 6 regarding the parking bays on site being line marked for exclusive use for the cafe, then these concerns can be addressed. And as well as some of the concerns around the antisocial impacts, given the operating hours between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. I think these should not be too much of an issue. And this is this change of use will enhance this popular cafe, which has to date complemented the area. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers in relation to this matter? Okay, all those in favour? Okay, that's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, what we might do now is we will try to go to 12.4 to the Office of the Auditor General. Okay, all right. Okay, so Director Mark Ambrose, over to you. We've
Right. Thank
sorted
you.
out,
Thank
we've
you, Chair.
dealt with one item, and now if you'd like to
Apologies
present to the
for
council.
not being there in person. Just unwell right now. And I can't hear from your side, but I am going to just speak through the audit outcome. The audit outcome for 2022-23 is an unqualified opinion. That is, the financial statements are based on proper accounts and records. They present fairly in all material respects and are in accordance with the Local Government Act. For 22-23, there were no significant findings from the audit. We had significant findings from the previous year that have been resolved by the council. There are significant improvements in the areas of reconciliations and on the information systems audit findings. And that's just testament to the work that's been done by management. Those areas, reconciliations and information systems, are continuous areas of focus. And it was also pleasing to see that it did receive the right attention at the recent audit committee. This was also a year of evaluations. There were evaluations of your land, buildings, as well as infrastructure. you will see from the financial statements there was a decrement in roads of 33 million plus. From an audit side, we were happy with the selection of the valuer, the assumptions used, and the robustness of management's assessment when it came to the valuation. Overall, it was a good audit and management were well prepared for the audit. Thanks.
Okay, so my understanding is that the director still can't hear us. But I'm nevertheless going to open to questions. And what's going to happen is the CEO is going to type them directly to the director, and hopefully we will still be able to get an answer. So, are there any questions arising from this report?
All right, thanks.
Okay. Well, I don't think there's anything further that's required. It is a clean bill of health, always a good idea. And can I just say how much I value the Office of Auditor General? They're the best. Okay, especially when they find that there's nothing wrong. Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to move on to the next item then.
All right. Thanks.
So now we're going to deal directly with the report and the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on the 7th of December, 2023. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Warner, do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Alexander. Okay, are there any, does anyone wish to make any comments in relation to these minutes? Okay. Okay, so we have also appointed the chair and the deputy chair to that committee. So the CEO will advise on that.
Through Mayor Zaman, yes, the city's practice is to have an independent external chair of our audit committee, and the audit committee appointed Mr. George Araj, who was a previous member of the audit committee, to that role, and Councillor Alexander was appointed deputy chair. Just on the meeting procedure, I think it's our practice that the deputy chair usually moves the audit committee minutes as opposed to seconds them. I don't think it's a deal breaker for that item, but just for future reference.
And congratulations, Councillor Alexander, for taking on that deputy chair role. Okay, so I just want to see all those in favour. Okay, passed unanimously. So now I'm going to move back to the order of the items. Okay, so now I'm moving to 9.3 Mount Hawthorn Youth Skate Space revised location. So can I have a mover for this? Moved Councillor LaFontaine, seconded Councillor Castle. Would anyone like to speak to this item? Councillor LaFontaine.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand that it's a bit of a clarification here that I have. Looking at the alternative location plans, it appears to sit over the existing community mulch and composting site. Can I just get clarification if this is remaining and if a new accessible composting location has been identified? Thank you.
Director.
Through the chair, I can confirm that the mulch pile will remain in some location. We will have to relocate it if this location is confirmed this evening. That will, for the consideration of where that will form part of the next stage of detailed design. And we will confirm specifically where that is and communicate that back to council.
Are there any other comments in relation to this item? Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. Can't let a skate park item go past without commenting on it. Obviously this has been a bit of a tortured process getting the right location for this, and it is a shame that we've had to move based on the soil conditions, but it's understandable, and it's certainly something that needs to be delivered within a reasonable budget. So I'm excited that we're moving to the next stage again, and certainly looking forward to the detailed design that will presumably be very similar to the detailed design we've already seen, and in actually breaking ground and finally getting this skate park built. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? I'd just like to make the comment that I thought it was really heartening to get the comments from the gallery at the briefing session from people saying how much they support the relocation of this particular park. I hope it's going to be a great success. Okay, there being no further speakers, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So I note that item 9.4 has been withdrawn from the agenda. So we move on to 9.5, licence to Broadway Unit Trust, trading as Spizziccheria Italiana on Road Reserve, Scarborough Beach Road, Mount Hawthorn. Do I have a mover for this item? Moved Councillor Warner, seconded Councillor Castle. Councillor Warner, would you like to speak to the item?
I don't really have much to say on this, except that, as I said last week, I think this has become an absolute landmark on our strip in Mount Hawthorn, and I'd be keen to see ways that we can almost bottle that energy that they have up there and spread the joy. So congratulations to everything they're doing there. I see them working it very hard, and I hope that this is a great example of what we can do. Thank you.
Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I agree. It's definitely an iconic part of the Mount Hawthorn strip. It's come about in a rather unusual way, and this process is in a way correcting that process so that we have a model to go forward. We've been through a number of different policy changes and clarifications since this was first installed, so it is good to see this being formalised. I have always admired the energy that is happening in this site, but I've also had some reservation around the exclusivity of the space, and I think that it's really important that we note that permitted use is a non-exclusive right. It's always a balance about finding ways for our businesses to capitalise on the area, as well as allowing the community to enjoy the outdoor alfresco areas without making them inaccessible to the rest of the community. And I think that a lot of that will be dealt with in the next stage when we look at the development application and the specific design that's being sought for approval, which is obviously similar or exactly what is currently in situ. But I think it is important to bear that in mind, that this is using public space and that should be available to all people. So we just need to get that balance right.
Does any other councillor wish to speak to this item? Councillor Hallett.
At the risk of being repetitive, because what I'd planned to say was a bit similar, but I guess I just wanted to reflect on the process that got us to here, and that at the time this, albeit beautiful and well used, was the privatisation of public space. And then we grappled with policy changes around vibrant spaces policy to look at how can we balance allowing businesses to use public space for activation, but also ensuring that it was available to the public for continued use. And I'm not sure that we have been able to grapple with it for this space. And we had some similar conversations around a spot in Mount Lawley as well that a few of us were concerned about. And I guess just I think it's useful for new councillors to be aware of, I guess, that history of how do we grapple with ensuring that our public space remains entirely open to everyone, and that when we approve things that are eatlets or parklets, that they're not constructed in a way that may imply that people can't use them if they're not using that establishment at the time.
Okay, are there any further comments from councillors? Okay, so I'm going to put this, all those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so the next item is 10.1, response to petition corner Scarborough Beach Road and Killarney Street maintenance and infrastructure. Okay, do I have a mover for this? Moved Councillor LaFontaine. Do I have a seconder to this item? Seconded Councillor Castle. Councillor LaFontaine, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment that I'm supportive of the recommendation and any traffic management that's going to prevent vehicles turning into a one-way street, particularly where the pedestrians likely. Thank you.
Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. I think, as was talked about last week, this is a sensitive area, being next to a primary school. I personally witnessed people driving the wrong way up Killarney Street. So it definitely does happen. And I think it's something that we do need to put some thought into and may perhaps have to go beyond what is just the regulatory requirement, just to ensure that it is safe for our primary school children.
Do any other councillors wish to speak to this matter? Okay, I just want to make the comment that I'm very supportive of people putting in petitions. It seems to be, I understand there seems to be a bit of a sentiment from some quarters that it's problematic to put in petitions. I'm really used to it as a democratic mechanism and highly supportive of people doing this. So I particularly want to thank these residents and also the residents put in other petitions for taking the trouble to do so that we can get a considered response and be able to look at and to bring it to the attention of both us and administration. So having said that, all those in favour of what's in front of us? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So then I move on to the next item, which is 10.2, response to petition Ellesmere Street, North Perth parking. Do I have a mover for this? Okay, moved Councillor LaFontaine. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Greer. Councillor LaFontaine, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just having a look at some of the data here, the 85 percentile speed, it does increase from 44.3 kilometres and increases up to 50.4 kilometres an hour when you move away from Charles Street towards and between Highlands Road and London Street. So along with the crash statistics, I think that the community concerns are valid, and I'm really supportive of administration investigating and consulting on this further. Thank you.
Councillor Greer.
Just to say that we very much thank the community for putting forward this petition, and it's good to get it looked at.
Okay, do any other councillors wish to make any comments? Okay, I'm going to put this. All those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you. So the next item is 10.4, Keilor Community Farmers Market waiver of fees, noting that this requires an absolute majority decision. Do I have a mover for this proposal? Moved Councillor Castle, seconded Councillor Warner. Councillor Castle, would you like to speak to this matter?
Thank you. Very supportive of this. This has been a well-loved community market, run exceptionally well by the Keilor Primary School P&C. And I certainly don't believe that there's been any major problems. I'm sure there's been a few little questions here and there about parking and traffic, but for the most part, it is a very successful market, and I'm very supportive of continuing to support it over the next 5 years. It's just a shame they always have their Christmas market on the same night as the last council meeting for the year, so we never get to go. So maybe next year they could choose another date.
Councillor Warner.
Thank you. I agree completely, and I second that motion about changing the date of their Christmas markets. This is a great local success story, and I wish them very well for the next 5 years. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Okay, all those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 12.1. Council recess period 2023-24, delegated authority to the CEO. And I note again, an absolute majority is required. Do I have a mover for this item? Moved Councillor Hallett. Do I have a seconder? Moved, seconded Councillor Alexander. Councillor Hallett, do you wish to speak to this item?
Thank you. I guess this is standard procedure for council, but just to note for anyone watching or taking note, that whilst we have delegated authority to the CEO during this period, there are circumstances in which the more hefty items will still come to council. We just have a much shorter time to consider it. So we will still provide oversight over this period.
Councillor Alexander, do you wish to speak to this?
Not particularly, other than to say I'm sure we've all got confidence in the CEO. Enjoy the Christmas period, David.
Do any other councillors wish to make any comments? Okay, all those in favour? Passed unanimously, thank you. Okay, so now we move to 12.2, appointment of council members and community representatives to.
Excuse me, Mayor. I think we've skipped over 11.6.
Sorry about that. It was accidentally crossed out on this list. So I'm going to go back to 11.6. So 11.6, annual report 2022-23, an absolute majority required for this item as well. Do I have a mover for this item? Okay, moved Councillor Castle, seconded Councillor Hallett. Councillor Castle, would you like to speak to this?
Not particularly, just to endorse it, and it's good to see another year of an annual report presented, and look forward to our AGM next year where we can discuss this further.
Councillor Hallett.
No, I think it's the annual report is always a nice time to reflect on some documented outcomes that we've achieved over the year. I think administration has done a marvellous job, so thank you for all of your work in achieving this. Thank you also to the CEO for his continued efforts around gender equity in the workplace, and I look forward to that continuing in the future.
Do any other councillors wish to speak to this item? Okay, all those in favour? Okay, pass unanimously. Thank you. So now we will go to item 12.2, appointment of council members and community representatives to advisory groups. Do I have a mover for this item? Moved Councillor Hallett, seconder. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Grier. Councillor Hallett, would you like to speak?
Thank you. Just that this is an important group, and the reason I pulled it out was because we just need to put in the chair of the advisory group. We just need to add the chair into the motion because it currently doesn't has a blank.
Nobody nominated for chair. Councillor Grier, would you like to second?
Yes, but nothing further to add.
Okay, we'll just actually see. Would anyone here like to nominate for chair? Councillor LaFontaine.
I just like to comment. I thought the chair was elected by the advisory group. No?
We'll just check.
Sorry. Just if I can get clarification on that.
Okay, the advice I'm receiving at the moment is that a councillor chairs, so it needs to come from the council. So is that Councillor LaFontaine, are you indicating an enthusiastic interest in being the chair? Because that's what I'm hearing.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, just to comment that there would be a support officer. We've got a sustainability team that supports the advisory group. They would liaise with you on the timing of the meetings, if you were to nominate, that was, and also talk to you about the agenda items and how to manage that. So it is a supported role, and staff would support the chair in conducting the duties as chair of the advisory group. We will minimise the administrative burden.
Councillor LaFontaine, are you interested in being the chair?
Thank you. I would prefer to wait until Councillor Wallace is present at a meeting so that he could, if he wanted to, nominate as well.
The only trouble is that would mean we wouldn't be able to have any sort of meetings until February. Councillor LaFontaine, how do you feel about a co-chair arrangement between yourself and Councillor Wallace?
That is okay.
So I'm going to take that as amendment. So amendment to the proposal in front of you is that we add Councillor LaFontaine and Councillor Wallace as co-chairs. Councillor Castle.
I'm happy to move that amendment.
Do I have a seconder? So that's seconded by Councillor Hallett. Okay, so that amendment has been incorporated. So I'm now going to come back to the substantive motion in front of us. Sorry. I'm going to vote on the amendment first. So all those in favour of the amendment? Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you. And now I'm going to go back to the substantive motion in front of us. Do any councillors wish to speak to the substantive amended motion? Okay, all those in favour? Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on. 12.3 information bulletin, yes? Okay, 12.3 information bulletin. Do we have a mover? Moved Councillor Castle. Do we have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Hallett. Councillor Castle, do you wish to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, purely to ask a question that was requested through me by Councillor Wolfe. It's in relation to the notifications that have been sent to submitters on the Angove Street petrol station SAT appeal. I don't believe they've gone to everyone who has submitted on that. So there has been a request that they be recirculated, or that we just check that we have sent notifications to all submitters and all interested parties on the Angove Street petrol station. Thank you.
Director.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, we can confirm that, Councillor Castle, and if there's any points of clarification, maybe we can reach out to Councillor Wolfe for a little bit more information. Thank you.
Did you have anything further you wanted to say? Okay, so Councillor Hallett, okay, does anyone else, do any other councillors wish to speak to this item? Okay, I'll move the item. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So there are no confidential items for this meeting, but there are confidential attachments. Sorry, don't have to worry about items. Great. Yes. Okay. So there being no further business to conduct, I thank all those or everyone in attendance and on the live stream, the hundreds of you, and close the meeting at 6:51.